I put on this smile and I act super bubbly and happy, and it's totally not me, but I want them to like me for God knows what reason. Waiting for my air conditioning to go off. There we go. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Renee. For any of you guys that are new, hello, it is very nice to meet you. Today's video is going to be a second part of my New Year's series that I'm doing in January. I'm posting some New Year's resolutions that I have for myself, just kind of the research that I do for these topics that I want to work on for this new year. So last Wednesday was a confidence video, so if you want to learn how to be confident, I'll pop the video on the screen, so definitely check that out. You guys wanted a new background, so I'm sitting here in front of my closet. It's like a really random place. Like my bathroom's right here, my closet's here, my bed's here, but it actually doesn't look that bad and the lighting doesn't suck, but my light is going off in my closet. Like it's like doing that thing where it like what's the word? Twinkles. So if that starts doing that, just heads up. Also, you guys wanted me to be a little bit less structured, so I popped the points that I have here for myself that I personally just researched for my own gain. I did a lot of this from books that I read and online and stuff, but I didn't go too deep into like the topics. We can kind of just chill and relax and talk about this together. Let's go ahead and get into it. I have 9 topics here that I want to talk about. I am a person that I feel like I overthink internally when I'm talking to other people. I'm constantly trying to please other people. I am overly apologetic sometimes, and I don't want this to be like a theme going into 2020. I want myself to not care as much about other people and kind of just live my life for myself and be happy with that, because it's very, very exhausting when you live in your head, especially when you're trying to constantly please people, which is just unattainable and unrealistic. So I want to get out of my head and get more into just being present and stop feeling the need to please people and have them accept me for anything. So that's kind of what I veered this topic on. Did you see the light? That's kind of scary actually. What if it's like a ghost talking to me? Hello? Okay. Now I'm kind of scared. It's like every time something happens like this, I always think of the movie Interstellar, and I'm like, what if it's myself telling me in a different dimension, like a sign? Renee? Alright, let's get into it. So the first tip that I have for myself is to get to the root of why you have this need to please other people or need to get approval of other people. You have to keep asking yourself why, and then you have to ask yourself why again, and then you have to ask yourself why again until you get to the root problem. And when you get to the root of the problem, you'll know. Some of the common things that I've realized when I was doing my research is that people care too much what other people think because they, one, desire some sort of approval from people. They fear judgment. They fear rejection. They're looking for love and acceptance. They're afraid to unveil some sort of insecurity about themselves. They feel like they're not living up to their expectations. And a lot of these, obviously, when you turn them around, are just issues within ourselves that we kind of portray onto other people. We're seeking for that loss in ourselves with other people, which is why it will never be attainable because you don't have it, first of all. So if you get to the bottom of what your why is, why you care so much, and like let's say for example it's rejection. Why do you feel like you were rejected in your life? Was it something that happened in your past when you were a kid? Is it something that happened in a previous relationship? Is it something that you're kind of portraying that onto other people so you're afraid that they're doing it back to you? Really just dig deep. And something that I did this year or last year was go to a therapist, and a lot of my problems stem from my childhood. Hi Renee. I have found out that a lot of my problems stem from fear of being judged because of things that are in my past. I've done a whole video about this before, but being like judged is a huge thing for me, and then also unveiling like an insecurity of mine, which I'm not really completely open to telling or talking about right now, but I definitely will in the future. But as of right now, it's just something that I personally don't feel like talking about because I'm trying to overcome it and get through it first and foremost. So those are some things that I've realized about myself, and I kind of discovered that when I did go to therapy. But obviously like therapy is super expensive, and I totally understand if you aren't like a therapy style person. So just keep asking yourself why. Whenever you find yourself afraid of doing something or you find yourself pleasing other people, ask yourself, why do I feel the need to do this right now? And then ask yourself, why do I feel the need to do whatever the answer was, and then why, and eventually you will get to that deep rooted issue. So the second thing that I have on my list is your fear is being fearful, and it's not fear of the outcome itself. When you realize that you're afraid of being afraid, it's like a click in your head and you're not as terrified anymore. Something that I started like halfway through last year is something had clicked in my head that I was either afraid of or I kind of just pushed myself out of because of uncomfortability. And the more that I put myself in those situations, even though I'm afraid in the beginning, I realized like it wasn't as big of a deal as my mind had made it up to be, and it ends up making me more confident in the future for things, and I find my fear slowly going away. So like, for example, if you're in school and you know the answer to a question of the homework that the teacher's asking you, that thing in your head is like you really want to answer because you know the answer, but you're afraid because you don't want the spotlight to be on you, or you don't want to get it wrong, or whatever the thing is. But that little spark in your head that says, oh no, like I want to but I'm not going to, that's the sign to just do it. And when you just do it, raise your hand, answer the question. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong. If you get it right, that's awesome, and she'll move on to the next person. And then you realize, holy crap, I just totally overanalyzed that situation. It literally happened in like 2 seconds. Nothing of what was going on in my head or my fear of what would happen actually happened, and I got through it, and I just overcome a fear. So the next time you're in class and you get that kind of urge or fear to raise your hand and answer a question, it deminimizes every time it happens, and eventually you'll just be like the one answering questions, not giving a F what other people think about you. And it's such a freeing feeling. I've been doing this, and it's just even the smallest things of like, if you want to compliment somebody's, I don't know, earrings or something, and you're kind of just afraid to kind of speak up or get the conversation flowing because of God knows what reason, the more that you do that and the more that you listen to that voice and overcome it, the more confident you are in life, and you don't feel the need to like care what other people think, even if you know, in your mind thinks that something's gonna go wrong. Become familiar with the unknown is kind of what I wrote here. So number 3 is you're the star in your own life and not the supporting actress, and everyone else is their own star. So when you think in your head that all these people care about me, or if I mess up or do something embarrassing, it's gonna be like the center of their world, it's not. Like, you are the star in your life, and the way that you view your life and your friends and your problems around you, they have the same kind of perspective but in their head. So you sitting there thinking about what I look like to other people or what I come across up to other people is a very selfish way of thinking, but think about how they're thinking. Do you think that they're sitting there judging you and making up whatever's going up in your mind? Are they thinking that exact thing? No, you're not thinking about what's in their head right now and their fears of what they feel like they're looking like. So why would they? Honestly, everyone just is in their own little bubble, in their own little world, and as like kind of sad as that sounds, it's actually very freeing to think like no one fucking cares. Let's say something did happen, like let's say you tripped or something and they like giggle, or they thought it was like awkward and embarrassing. Like the one time that they probably care, they're probably gonna care for like this long. They're gonna get over it very quickly and then just really quickly go back into being the star of their own world and focusing on their problems and their life, not yours. They're way too busy internally with themselves to even deal with what you're dealing with internally. So the 4th one is to get rid of expectations and assumptions, because half of the times, probably way more than half the time, those things that we create in our head are not truthful. So when you go into a situation, when you go into a situation and you find yourself having these super high expectations, that's a problem with perfectionism. I do this all the freaking time, and it literally ruins my whole day. If I, you know, plan this really good event for my boyfriend, for example, and I have super high expectations for how the day is gonna go, what we're gonna do, but I only do things around selfishly my way of how I think the day should go, it ends up going horribly wrong, because even just the one little thing that you do that's off those expectations will just shatter you, and you feel out of control, and you feel like you just ruined the day, or the day is ruined, and then you just have all these things in your head. And this recently happened to me when I went out with a friend. I had expectations for the night. I kind of created this false narrative in my head when like the plans went a different route, and I didn't want it to go that way because I had planned like my perfectionism the way I wanted the night to go, without really putting into consideration what other people wanted for the night, which is a very selfish way of thinking, but it's also a very controlled way of thinking. And when I know what I'm doing for the night or the plans for the night, I feel more comfortable, and I'm not putting myself in the uncomfortability of maybe trying something different or meeting new people. And I caught myself doing that like the morning after, and I realized how incredibly selfish that was. Thinking that I was somehow protecting myself I was actually making a problem with letting life just flow, if that makes sense, and like not feeling the need to control my life so much, because I probably would have had a lot of fun if I did go that route of doing the other plan and going with the flow and doing other things. I probably would have, first of all, got out of my comfort zone, met a few new people, and not cared so much about the rigid schedule that I put for myself. And I do this all the time with interactions with people. I catch myself doing this. Like, I'll have these expectations for how the conversation is gonna go, how I'm supposed to act, and how I'm performing, and it's just fucking exhausting. And when you learn to stop doing that and just release any expectations for how you're communicating with other people or how you're coming across with other people, just like I should have released my expectations for certain nights that I hung out with my friends, it is such a freeing feeling, and you find yourself in different situations that you never would have planned for yourself but probably had a lot of fun and comfortability in. Also, you have to get rid of like assumptions. So when you assume that other people think X, Y, and Z about you, you can't sit there and have this narrative in your head that's, first of all, it's a false narrative, but you are internally repeating it over and over and over and over in your head, and you're focusing your attention on it, making it feel more real because that's what you're focusing on. In the book How to Be Yourself, which is a really good book if you're interested in reading, I'll pop it in the description box. I've mentioned this so many times and I feel like crazy. She wrote a thing about this guy who had a girlfriend who, or it was like a girl or a guy, I forgot, but one of the significant others was meeting the parents for the first time, and the guy had like slipped up or said something really awkward or stupid. He realized that the parents, I don't know, took notice to it, and for like the whole rest of the night he was just like, I messed up, I messed up, I messed up. He got in the car, and then his girlfriend was like, oh my god, that was such a fun night, like I had so much fun, and he was like, are you serious? I said blah 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 blah, and he had focused his whole attention on that for that night, and because of that, first of all, he probably ruined the night for himself. Second of all, he was focusing on a false narrative that obviously didn't matter because the girlfriend didn't even bring it up. Like, she had noticed it, but it wasn't like the focus, and she actually had a really good time, and she thought that her parents really liked him, and it just shows that like what you focus on internally, like our narrative is so false, and when you assume things, a lot of the times that's not the case, and you need to shift your focus away from what had happened or what you think or assumed other people perceived from what had happened in the past, and focus and shift your way over to the present. A good tip here to do something like that is when you're talking to somebody, instead of focusing internally on what's going on with you or how you're performing or coming across to other people, focus on the other person, focus on their mannerisms, and focus on what they're saying. When you do that, you're shifting the focus away from your internalizing false narrative over to like being actually present with the person. The fifth thing on my list, the fifth thing on my list is to stop second guessing yourself. I do this all the freaking time. I've actually been told like how annoying it is when I constantly make sure and check in on something because I am second guessing myself. For example, if I feel like, I don't know, because I'm a people pleaser, if the music that I put on isn't what they want, I will sometimes ask them, are you sure you want this? And they'll say, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because internally I'm second guessing, but they had already communicated to me that it was fine. And when I say, are you sure, probably for the fifth time, it gets to be a little bit annoying and repetitive. And I totally feel that energy, and I hate myself for doing it. And it's something that I just really need to just stop. So the first thing to do is notice that and be aware of your thoughts, because that's the first step in anything. When you notice something, good, check it off your list and accept it for what it is instead of trying to reject it. And now we're going to move forward with changing it. So something here that I had gotten from that book, again, that I told you about, are these 3 magical questions that you ask yourself whenever you're giving yourself a false narrative. You're second guessing yourself, right? Whatever that thought is in your head, for example, like let's use mine, do they really like this music that I'm playing? Number 1 would be, how bad would that really be? Like, let's say they lied to me and they really didn't like the music and they thought I was being annoying, which is my fear of what I think that's happening. Even though they told me repetitively 9 times that that's not how it is, like they don't care what the music is, but I feel like I'm being annoying if they don't like the music. They would probably just not like the music, get a little bit annoyed, and then probably change it. But the fact that they told me like over and over 3 or 4 times, it's not really on me anymore, it's more on them. And then what are the odds of that actually happening? Well, the odds are that 9 times they told me they liked the music and I don't need to change it. So what are the actual odds of them not liking the music? Odds are they really are fine with the music, otherwise they would have said on the 9th time that I said Are you sure? They probably would have told me. And how can I cope with it if that happens? Like, let's say they did. They're like, actually, I really don't like this music. That was so annoying. How do I cope with that? I would probably put them in their place and be like, well, you should have told me. I asked you 9 times. So when you have those 3 magical questions, I know that was like a super basic, not crazy second guessing yourself, but there could be some questions that are much bigger than that you can use this for. So if you have fear of judgment of others, or you're afraid that someone doesn't like you or something like that, and you're trying to get approval or something, ask yourself those 3 questions. How bad would that really be? What are the odds, and how can I cope if it's actually true? And it really just kind of like deminimizes the situation and not make it such a big deal. There's a quote that I came across when I was researching too, and it's by an unknown person. Good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. So even if you make a bad decision and you're second guessing yourself, you'll learn. You'll make better decisions in the future. So the 6th thing on my list is to give yourself an alter ego. Alter ego, is that the word? Alter ego? It sounds really wrong, but I don't know. Let me read the definition. A person's secondary or alternative personality. So give yourself like somebody else that is your true like being without being afraid or fearful of anything. So like, what would your potential be if nothing stopped you or halted you? And like, how do you see yourself? Just be that person. Like whenever you go somewhere, like give it a name. I know that sounds crazy, but like, let's say the name is Stacy, and I'm like, Stacy is me if I didn't have all these fears and confidence issues or whatever. Like, it's my true authentic self of how I want to be, and just be Stacy. Like literally just go somewhere and be that alternative ego. Alternative ego, what is it called? Alter ego. I know a lot of celebrities have this, and it's just probably very freeing. There's a TED talk of a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills. I think her name is Erica, I forgot, but she is like the wife of a really big banker, and she also has an alter ego that helped her get out of her shell and be more confident. And it's all about like, she's super feminine and sexy and like out there. So it's a really good TED talk for how she kind of overcame the fear of judgment of others by having an alter ego. So there's a difference here between performing an alter ego that you want to beat so that other people accept you, or it kind of connects to the first one of like the root as to what your problems are. So if you're making an alter ego, make it yourself, like how you want to view yourself, not how you want others to view you. So that's a huge difference, because some people might like act as if or have an alter ego that's like what they want to be perceived as to other people, but that's not what you want to do. You want to be doing what you want to be looking like to other people. So the 7th thing on my list is to not put pressure on pleasing everyone. I am such a people pleaser sometimes, but that's really fake. I catch myself sometimes like putting a wall up. Again, it's like stemmed from my past, and it connects to my why and my childhood and my past. I've noticed this when I'm meeting especially like new people. I put on this smile and I act super bubbly and happy, and it's totally not me, but I want them to like me for God knows what reason. So I can just feel myself being fake, and I can just like, I can't. I hate when I'm like this. You just really have to keep this one in mind. I've kind of tried my best to do this. Sorry, my foot is asleep, and I'm like, oh my God, that's why I'm fidgeting so much. But see, I just said sorry. No, my foot's asleep. I can move if I want to. Okay, so yeah, what was I saying? Just stop trying to please everyone and just do it for yourself, because it's exhausting and it's also very fake. And the more that you open up to your like the person, or like you're putting on a front and you feel yourself kind of being fake, and the more that you're just like more vulnerable and more human and less perfect that you're putting up of how you think they want you to act or how they're going to accept you as, the more that their wall is going to come down too. Because I used to have like friendships with people that I knew that they were being fake, I know I'm being fake, and it just was like a surface level friendship, and it never got any deeper than that, because you're not humanizing yourself and making yourself vulnerable to being open with them, which is how you connect with human beings in the first place. So the 8th one that I have is to hang out with people that are opposite than you. I think this is extremely important. Hang out with people with different political views, hang out with people with different gender roles, hang out with different people with different personalities. Just hang out with people that are completely opposite than you, because you're gonna learn, first of all, so much, but also you're gonna like not judge people as much, because you are more open to receiving different types of people. And ultimately you're telling yourself less and less of other people and how they judge you, because you've been so open and less judgmental, and then you realize how incredibly cool different types of people are, so then you think other people think like that, and you're just not gonna have that fear of judgment in your head. I wrote on here, sometimes sometimes when you hang out with people that are very similar to you, first of all, you're not being open to other people, which makes you think that other people aren't open to other types of people, which is why you try to morph into like their personality to please them and get them to accept you. But also, when you hang out with people that are similar to you, you tend to compare and compete with them, which is just internally creating more internal suffering within yourself and caring too much. So when you have someone else that is completely opposite, you're so focused on like them as a person because you're so intrigued by them that you don't even have time to sit there and analyze how you're coming across. And then ninth and final thing on my list is to slow down and relax. Like, release the need to control everything. Again, I kind of just noticed this about myself recently. I had that one night that I told you guys I didn't go with the flow. And then also I asked you guys on Instagram some constructive feedback for my content, and you guys said I'm too structured, and I totally see that. I think releasing that need to control, kind of just like chill out for a bit, especially when like confronted with other people. Something that I also realized about myself was that I tend to have the conversation keep going because I'm afraid of like those awkward silences. Like, you're like, hi to your neighbor and they're like, hey, how's it going? And you're like, it's good. And you say, how are you? And they say, it's really good. And then you're just like, fuck, what do I say? What do I say? You feel like the need to say something and that pressure to perform. And instead of just like chilling out and just relaxing and having the conversation and enjoy the conversation, you're like freaking out internally of like, what am I gonna say next? And it's just not a good thing. Next time, release the need for control, chill out, and let the other person deal with the flow of the conversation next time. Why can't they be the one to like not have the awkward silence? Why is it always on you? You'll be so chill and relax, and you'll end up having a regular conversation. So I hope you guys enjoyed this style. I hope you guys liked the new background. I'm not gonna do the same background every time, but I kind of like the lighting. Renee didn't come out again, so maybe the light bulb's just completely out by this point. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys all in Friday's video. Bye guys.